think it's working.
All right. Yes. All righty. Well, good afternoon and welcome to the Lincoln City Council meeting of Monday, April the 21st, 2025. Please be advised a copy of the Open Meetings Act is posted at the back of the chambers by the northwest door. We've already risen for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silent meditation. And so with that, we will proceed. The order of business of the City Council is as follows. The clerk will call the items listed on the agenda. Under public hearing, anyone wishing to speak on an item must first register and sign in at the table located in the lobby. The council shall require any member of the public addressing council to identify themselves, the name of an organization represented by such person, and their address, unless the address requirement is waived to protect the security of the individual. Each speaker should state whether they are speaking in favor or in opposition to the item, and testimony is limited to 5 minutes per speaker. Anyone wishing to speak on an agenda item should come forward after the clerk reads the item and the applicant has presented. After public comments, the applicant may make one short rebuttal. After all public hearings, the council will vote on resolutions and items listed under third reading. On the second and last Mondays of the month, immediately prior to adjournment, anyone may speak on any issue not on the agenda for that day nor planned for a future agenda. We ask that all speakers strive for civility and allow the business of council to proceed unimpeded. Madam Clerk, will you please read the first item of business?
Our first item of business for our City Council agenda for Monday, April 21st, 2025 is our consent agenda, sections 1, 2, and sections 3.
All right. If there's any staff member present who'd like to present an item on the consent, please come forward. Good afternoon, Director.
Good afternoon, David Carey, Director of the Planning Department. Here to introduce David Landis, who probably needs no introduction, but I just want to thank him for agreeing to serve on the Nebraska Capital Environments Commission upon your consideration of his appointment, and I will hand it off to David.
Thank you.
Mr. Landis.
Thank you. If you want to see the work of the Capital Environments Committee at work in a strange and interesting way, go out to Pioneers Park. Stand next to the buffalo and look to the east. It is perfectly aligned to a capitol that has a perfect frame from the trees that open up and to the streets that are there. That far away, we have protected that vista because of the importance of that building. It's an example of what the Capital Environments Committee's idea is all about. So I'd be happy to put to the service of the state and of the city my degree in community and regional planning, or for the year that I was an assistant professor at the College of Architecture in that field, and look forward to the chance to serve in the event you endorse my service on the commission. Questions?
Thank you, Mr. Landis. Are there any questions?
Kind of a slam dunk.
Thank you.
Thank you for serving.
All right. Is there anyone here in chambers who'd like to speak on this appointment, either in support or in opposition? Seeing none, we'll move on to the next item. Are there any other directors who'd like to present an item on consent? Would anyone like to address, anyone in chambers like to address an item on consent? Madam Clerk.
We can vote on these items. I'll call item 1A, appointing David Landis to the Nebraska Capital Environments Commission for a partial term to expire January 9th, 2027, introduced by Bowers.
So moved.
Second.
Second, Carlson. Any discussion?
I just want to acknowledge, Dave Landis was my first state senator when I was born into North Lincoln, and that he really has a distinction of being the most effective Nebraska legislator in passing over 391 bills, and his ability to find consensus on complex issues really has become a model and has been replicated through other educational institutions. He has real talent, and his ability to get things done has been proven, and his reputation precedes him. And so any way that he serves our city or our state, we're lucky to have him. So thanks so much for being willing to serve, Senator.
All right, thank you. Any other discussion? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Weber,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Duden,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Beckius,
Yes.
Washington.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0.
All right.
Item 1B is approving a professional services agreement supplement number 2 for preliminary engineering services between the City of Lincoln and Alfred Benish and Company for A Street, 6th to 17th Street project, introduced by Bowers.
So moved.
Second.
Second, Carlson. Any discussion? Madam Clerk?
Bowers,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Duden,
Yes.
Beckius,
Yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Washington.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Item 1C is setting the Board of Equalization hearing date of Monday, May 12th, 2025 at 3 p.m. on the College View Maintenance Improvement District, Havelock Maintenance Improvement District, North 27th Street Maintenance Improvement District, South Street Maintenance Improvement District, University Place Maintenance Improvement District, and West O Street Maintenance Improvement District, introduced by Carlson.
So moved. Second.
Second, Beckius. Any discussion, counselors? Seeing none, Madam Clerk?
Beckius,
Yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Duden,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Washington.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0.
All right.
Item 1D is rescinding the approval of April 7th, 2025 of the distribution of funds representing interest earnings on short-term investments of idle funds during the month ended February 28th of 2025, approving a corrected distribution of funds representing interest earnings on short-term investments of idle funds during the month ended February 28th of 2025, introduced by Carlson.
So moved. Second.
Second, Beckius. Madam Clerk?
Carlson,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Duden,
Yes.
Beckius,
Yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Washington.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Items 2A and 2B were introduced by Schob.
So moved.
Second.
Second, Carlson. Any discussion? Madam Clerk?
Beckius,
Yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Duden,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Washington.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0.
All right. We can move ahead to public hearing on liquor resolutions.
I'll call items 4A and 4B together. Items 4A and B is application of Textbook 21 LLC, doing business as Residence Inn for a Class C liquor license located at 850 R Street, and the related manager application of Aaron Stitt.
Good afternoon, Council.
Good
Again,
afternoon.
my name is Aaron Stitt. I represent Textbook 21 LLC. It does business as a Residence Inn by Marriott Hotel. This is for a Class C liquor license located at 850 R Street, Lincoln, Nebraska 68508. This is a 122 all suites room hotel. It's an extended stay, and we're excited to bring this to Lincoln downtown. Any questions you guys have for me, I'd love to answer for you. It does have a small bar in the lobby that will also service our outdoor courtyard kind of patio setting as well. Liquor licenses for the entire property of the hotel.
Okay. I guess I have a couple of questions. First, when do you open?
So early June. So right now it's kind of slated as June 1st. Could move a week ahead or a week behind, but yeah, early June. We're super excited.
That's very exciting. Nice addition to downtown Lincoln. And I noticed, since you do have an existing liquor license, that you've had no violations since you've opened the courtyard.
Yeah, 13
Next door.
years. Yeah, we're excited.
Yeah.
We're on a tight ship. I've got two of those individuals behind me that help run that ship and keeping things safe and just following the laws. So.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much. Thank you. Any other comments from councilors?
No.
All righty.
Thank you.
Best
you.
of luck on your construction schedule.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. Matt, is there anyone here who'd like to speak on this item, either in support or in opposition? Anyone here in chambers would like to speak on this? All right. We'll move ahead.
Item 4C is application of SMG Food and Beverage LLC, doing business as Pinnacle Bank Arena for special designated licenses to cover an outdoor area measuring approximately 700 feet by 448 feet at Pinewood Bowl at 3201 Coddington Avenue on June 13th and 17th, August 2nd, 5th, 8th, 10th, 21st, and 23rd, September 17th, 19th, 27th, 2025, from 8 a.m. to 2 a.m.
All right. Is the applicant present today? Okay. Do any counselors have questions that we could ask the investigator? If not,
Concert season.
it's concert season at Pinewood Bowl. All right. Is there anyone here in chambers who'd like to speak on this application? Seeing none, we will move forward. Madam Clerk.
I'll call item 4D, application of Jacob Thiessen, doing business as Hub Cafe for a special designated licenses to cover an indoor area measuring approximately 30 feet by 30 feet and an outdoor area measuring approximately 200 feet by 170 feet at Jane Snyder Trail Center at 250 North 21st Street on June 27th, July 25th, August 22nd, September 26th, 2025, from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m.
All right. Is the applicant in the chambers for this? I don't see him present. Are there any questions for the investigator? I think we can use the same comment.
Yep.
It's concert season.
Been sold.
All right. Is there anyone here in chambers who'd like to speak on this item, either in support or in opposition?
Madam Chair, seeing no one else coming forward, I'd like to make a motion that we approve items 4A through 4D.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr.
Second.
Carlson.
Yeah, second by Carlson. Any discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk.
Bowers,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Duden,
Yes.
Beckius,
Yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Washington.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0.
All righty, let's move forward to public hearing resolutions.
Item 5A is approving the contract between the City of Lincoln and Industrial Services, Inc. for dead animal removal for a 4-year term with the option to renew for 1-year additional 4-year terms.
All right. Is the Department of Health or someone else here to speak on this item? 5A. Do we have a presenter on this item? It does not look like we do. All right. Counselors? Well, City Attorney Christie, thank you so much.
Yes. Johansson Christie, City Attorney. I can tell you that this is my understanding, I think this is a citywide contract that is utilized by multiple departments, not just the health department. So.
Okay. All right. Did any counselors have questions on this application?
Mr. Christie, do you happen to know if this represents an increase in cost from years prior? I understand you may not have that information.
I do not. I was standing up here because no one is here at this time.
Sure.
I can get that answer. As I stand here right now, I do not have that answer.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Councilman Beckius, would you like your question answered before we vote on this item? Should we table this for a week?
I am okay proceeding at this point in time.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Yeah, it looks as if this is a $30,000 contract and not to exceed $40,000. 30 is the estimate, but we're billed per animal removed. Dead animal removed. I'm sorry. All right. Is there anyone here in chambers who'd like to come forward and speak on this item? Okay, seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Item 5A is approving the contract between the City of Lincoln and Industrial Services, Inc. for dead animal removal for a 4-year term with the option to renew for 1 additional 4-year terms, introduced by Bowers.
So moved.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Oh, second Carlson, any discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk.
Beckius,
Yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Duden,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Washington.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0.
All right. All righty, we can move forward to public hearing ordinances, second reading, and related resolutions. Let's begin.
I'll call item 6A, amending the pay schedule for employee group whose classifications are assigned to the pay range prefixed by the letter C, creating the classification Emergency Communications Technology Specialist.
Good afternoon, AC Dale.
Good afternoon, members of the council. Ryan Dale, Assistant Chief for LPD, 575 South 10th Street. This classification is for an employee that would focus strictly on technology within the Emergency Communications Center. It's work that has been performed previously by a supervisor on their staff, However, with every day that passes, it becomes more and more specialized because of the extreme amount of technology that they use to keep us safe. So it was pulling a supervisor away from being able to supervise and do the things that we really need them to do. And this just better allows someone to focus on it and make sure that we're operating at peak efficiency and that any outages that we have are handled rapidly, so on and so forth. It has been filled by an out-of-class employee for the past approximately 1 year, and it is in our budget. I'd be happy to answer any other questions you may have.
Thank you. Are there any questions from councilors? All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Would anyone in chambers today like to speak on this item, either in support or in opposition? All right, we will move forward.
I'll call item 6B, text amendment 24015, request of the Planning Department to amend section 27.02.040C to revise the definition for club, section 27.02.070F to add a new definition for floor area for accessory buildings, and section 27.02.190R to revise the definitions for recreational facilities, enclosed commercial, and recreational facilities outdoor, to clarify and simplify the definitions, to amend section 27.06.150 commercial recreation and entertainment facilities, use group to amend the use group table to be consistent with the revisions to the definitions, to amend section 27.63.500 salvage yards to make revisions to include Nebraska Parkway and Nebraska Highway 2, and to amend section 27.69.035 off-premises signs to add Nebraska Parkway.
Good afternoon, David Carey.
Good afternoon, members of the City Council. David Carey, Director of the Planning Department, 555 South 10th Street. Here before you for this text amendment to Chapter 27, our zoning code, which is really hopefully to be considered as a cleanup and clarification item. Most of this is an outgrowth of some changes that have happened, such as the renaming of Nebraska Highway 2 to Nebraska Parkway in our code, as well as some definitions that we're providing some more clarity on how to look at things specifically so that there is clarity when decisions are made. So that's really what this is. This was at public hearing at the Planning Commission on April 2nd. It was approved 9-0. There was no testimony in support or opposition, which was somewhat expected as a cleanup item. So really what this will do is it bring more clarity to the municipal code, especially pertaining to definitions of listed uses, ensuring that those uses are cited in the most appropriate zoning districts. So with that, I'll stop and see if there's any questions on this item.
Any discussion or questions, Councilor? Okay. I guess we have no questions.
Thank you.
All right. Is there anyone here in chambers who'd like to address council on this item, either in support or in opposition? Seeing no one come forward, Madam Clerk, we can move ahead.
I'll call item 6C, change of zone 25006, application of Charles and Amy Smith to change the zoning designation from AGR Agricultural Residential to R1 Residential on property generally located at 6620 Elmira Lane.
All right. Good afternoon again.
David Carey, Director of the Planning Department, 555 South 10th Street. Here, speaking on behalf of the applicant, we coordinated with them. We understand that they will not be here today in attendance. I will show just a map to provide some location clarity on this.
And I believe Mr. Smith is actually sitting right behind you.
Sorry.
Are you Mr. Smith? Yes. This is your item.
I was told that you were going to be here, so, but I have a map up here for you.
There's two Mr. Smith?
Yes. Sorry.
Oops, wait a second.
We've gotten confused on this one.
I'm not on this item.
Right, you're not on this item. Sorry, my apologies.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I saw the last name.
But I thought I knew what I was doing.
Is there another Mr. Smith here?
Yes, right. There might be two. Thank you.
Goes to city council.
Probably several Mr. Smiths.
Yes, there are. Pardon me. Proceed.
Sorry, start over. David Carey with the Planning Department, 555 South 10th Street. Here on behalf of the applicant to just kind of walk through a fairly straightforward change of zone. I do have the map up here. You'll notice that this is the property in question along Elmira Lane. This is Nebraska Parkway and 70th Street here. You will notice that there is R1 zoning in the proximity and that the property in question can be subdivided down to 2 buildable lots, which is really the intent of the applicant. So we were in support of this proposal. This did go to the Planning Commission, did receive unanimous approval as well. It was part of the consent agenda at the Planning Commission, so there was no testimony at that point. So again, we are in support of this, and we would recommend for you to consider approval of this as well.
Okay. Are there any questions from councilors? There are no questions.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll try and get my Mr. Smiths corrected. Is there anyone here in chambers who'd like to address council on this issue? 6C, a change of zone. Seeing no one coming forward, we can move ahead.
I'll call item 6D, change of zone CZ 24022, application to the Lincoln Lancaster County Planning Department to change the zoning designation from B4 Lincoln Center Business District, I1 Industrial District, and O1 Office District, B4, I1, and O1 with historic overlay on the property generally located at South 6th Street to South 9th Street, J Street to N Street.
Director Carey.
David Carey, Director of the Planning Department, 555 South 10th Street. Going to have my members of my team come up to talk about this in more detail. I just want to start this off by saying that this is a local landmark district in the South Haymarket area that we're excited about. And we are going to kind of just walk you through a little bit of the detail, making sure that there's an understanding by yourselves and the public for something that we are in support of and would like to move forward with. So I appreciate your little bit of your time today, and I'll hand it off to Paul Barnes.
Thank you, Director Carey. Paul Barnes with the Planning Department, 555 South 10th Street. So the item that we bring before you is for a historic designation or local landmark for an area known as South Haymarket. I'm going to ask Jill Dahlberg, our historic preservation planner, to come up here and walk us through some slides that she has prepared. Some fun images of the history of the area. Some of them actually showing some flooding and things that had happened in the past that are always kind of curious. But not happening now because we have at least since the 50s, the flood control taken care of. However, I just wanted to note that this project was a recommendation out of the South Haymarket Neighborhood Plan. And that was adopted, I think, in 2016 now. So we're continuing to implement the recommendations from that plan, and specifically, this was one of them. So I think with that, I'm not going to speak too much more on it, but we'll be available for questions. I'm going to ask Jill to go ahead and come up and kick us off on the presentation. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you. Let's see if I can. All right. My name is Jill Dahlberg, and I'm the Historic Preservation Planner with the Planning Department, 555 South 10th Street. And we are excited to tell you a little bit about the South Haymarket Industrial District today. Landmark districts are areas of multiple buildings with shared historic or architectural significance. In this case, their area of significance is in community development and industry. Landmarking provides some protections for historic properties through design review by HPC, Historic Preservation Commission. As we've said, landmarking was recommended as part of the South Haymarket Neighborhood Plan to preserve structures, incentivize redevelopment, and assist with floodplain regulations. We've done a lot of outreach with letters and public meetings to property owners, so it shouldn't surprise anyone. And I wanted to tell you a little bit about the benefits of landmarking. It can allow for special permits for flexibility and reuse as people look for new uses for old buildings. There are some state and federal tax credits that reward substantial rehabilitation of historic properties. Historic districts are generally shown to perform better economically than areas that are not. It protects our history. Not only are we telling the story of these buildings and this collection of buildings, but we also have that chance to review changes that are proposed to the historic buildings. And then the floodplain standards. Contributing properties do not need to meet floodplain requirements when they're rehabilitating historic buildings. So that can be a big help. So now for a few fun pictures. And not nearly as many as I'd like to show you. This is the Lincoln Paint and Color Building at 825 M. You'll see way back in the day, there used to be a public fountain for watering horses and dogs in the middle of the street, which I think is amazing. And then this is the Lincoln Public Service Company building. I've always admired it and wondered what it was, and now I know it is a public service company at 841L. Looks very much the same as it always has. And then this is the earliest building that remains in the district, the Western Mattress Company building, built around 1894. And you can just see it behind that boxcar during some flooding, because you don't usually need a boat, I think, on 7th Street. But anyway, we would like to make one recommendation of a change. There's been some interest in counting a building that has previously been deemed non-contributing as contributing. It's you'll see they look like one building, but those are actually two buildings there. The one with the big garage door was built in 1938 and was designed by Selmer Solheim. The building next door to it was an infill building that was constructed in 1978. And I didn't write this landmark nomination, but I suspect that we were following a National Register guideline of 50 years for eligibility. This one's 47, so it's a little young. But we have the flexibility within our codes to be able to accept this building as contributing to the district. And in truth, if you tried to get me to tell you why one of these buildings is contributing and the other is not, when they have the same materials and massing and general shape and size, I'd be hard pressed to tell you. So when it comes time to vote, we might recommend that we amend the nomination to add 631L as contributing. At the interest of the property owner, they've expressed an interest in being counted as contributing. So, what questions can I answer for you?
All right. Counselors, do you have any questions or comments? Well, I could ask, but I'm not going to. This is just fascinating for me. It's walking down memory lane for my old career. Thank you very much. It was a nice report. And we could have a longer conversation about why it's contributing and 621 is not. I would find that conversation fascinating.
Yeah, I'd be happy to have that.
Yeah, okay. Is there anyone here in Chambers? Did you have more? Okay. Is there anyone here in Chambers who'd like to address council on this item?
Way to go, Jill.
Yeah. Good afternoon and welcome, Mr. Seacrest.
Well, thank you very much. Kent Seacrest, representing B&J Properties, also known as Speedway Properties. We are the owner of that 631 building that Jill just mentioned you, and we stand in support of the creation of the district. Now, particularly that we've gotten that recommendation by your team to include the property. I'll just show you. Thumbs up. You can see that little red skinny piece of property where the yellow line is pointing to. B&J has acquired, either currently owns and with purchase agreements from IMS, whose principal is Nick Cusack. We will own the whole block, both sides, except you are going to become the proud owner of 600, which is the beautiful 5-story historical building, which we have already been talking to the city over the last year about redevelopment potential. What we're really excited about is the fact that you are building a new park. And with that, we are your south entrance. We think we have a great opportunity to redevelop the whole block with your one building as partners. And that'll be a very unique restaurant opportunity to come into the park on the south side. So we think this is real awesome. And it's important that all the properties be contributory because of the attributes that Jill did a nice job summarizing. And that is contributory properties do not need to meet the floodplain requirements. And it would be odd to have this little sliver have to be basically 4 or 5 feet higher than its 200-year and 125-year-old buildings next door to us. And so this is why this is important, so we can develop the whole block face together and get, it also gives us the opportunity to get state and federal historic tax credits, which Jill's material pointed out, and just protect the character of the neighborhood. So we stand in front of you. We want to thank Paul Barnes and both Jill for their work on this area, and we'd be glad to answer any of your questions.
All right, thank you. Counselors, are there any questions? All right. It's a very easy afternoon today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Seacrest. All right. Is there anyone else who'd like to come forward and speak on this item, either in support or in opposition? Seeing no one else coming forward, we can move on to the next item. Madam Clerk.
I'll call item 6E, Street and Alley Vacation 24008, application of Gail McNair and other abutting property owners to vacate a portion of the alley on property generally located east, south, 16th, and north of Dakota Circle.
All right. And this item is attributed to the Mr. Smith, who is present.
I'm listed as other.
Steve Hendrickson with the Planning Department, with Abby with the Travel City Attorney's Office, 555 South 10th Street. I'll have a few particular items to go over, but first have Abby, if you wanted to do a few comments to start with.
Sure. So this vacation is a bit unusual. We can pop up here. What we're looking at is this little portion of an alley next to Dakota Circle. And so it's the red portion that will be vacated. And then half of it is intended to be conveyed to this property owner, which is Mr. Smith. And then this property is owned, it's a very complicated ownership structure because it's a condo association and they all own the outlot. And so the deed transferring what would be the south and the east portion of this alley would be kind of in equal shares to the condo owners down here. There is some question about value, and we just wanted to talk to you briefly about that. I know there's been some materials submitted. The Urban Development Department has come up with an appraisal and then split that between the two parties according to the area. That is required by code. They can't get in front of you without that appraisal and depositing that money with the city clerk. There's been a request from one of the property owners maybe to waive that fee. Steve can talk more about the valuation part. I just want to point out here that it is important that the city of Lincoln and this body cannot gift property. You can't just make a gift because you would like to without some sort of consideration back or a justification for why perhaps you think that the valuation initially placed by Urban Development isn't correct. So I know that there have been some materials submitted about maybe the hardship that this would produce by charging this fee. I would suggest to you that that's probably closer to a gift than a well-reasoned maybe adjustment from what the appraiser had initially suggested.
Okay. Ms. Luttrell, before you walk away, I'm going to ask a question for clarifying.
Sure.
When you described having to have a justification for waiving a fee, you're asking us to look at justifications that deal with the appraisal itself or the value of the property more than we are to look at the particular hardship of the purchaser.
Correct.
Okay.
And there could be other sorts of considerations. So, for example, I think you had one last week where a very small, had a really long legal description, was vacated, and it was because the size of the development changed and new right-of-way was going to be dedicated somewhere else. So in that case, there was ample consideration. I think you've also had cases where You could legitimately say that it's to the benefit of the city. The city receives some consideration by kind of cleaning up right-of-way existing where it really doesn't need to exist, because technically the city is responsible for that, and in some circumstances it's better just to get it out of public hands and into private hands under the right circumstances. So that could be another sort of consideration that you could consider, that's not cash consideration.
Okay.
And
Thank
I'll
you.
stay here too if you have more questions
Okay,
after Steve
thank you.
talks.
I'm sure there'll be another question.
All right.
Okay.
Mr. Henriksen.
What I thought I would be able to do is to provide some information in regards to considerations you might take into account as to why this property is a little bit different than a lot of the other street and alley vacations that we have sent to you. And as Abby has noted, in the 30-plus years I have been here, I've seen a lot of street vacations. And on this particular map, the area over in orange, just to the west of 16th Street, that's an alley that's currently not vacated, but is much more typical of the kind of alleys that come forward to you. You got 16 feet wide, it's behind the property. The property owners may or may not be using portions of it today, but it definitely adds to their property. It's some additional room that they may do. And so when the Urban Development Department is looking at the value and then saying, well, owners will generally pay 20% or so, that's very typical of those kind of circumstances where you're adding additional property to it. And it's a long straight shot from one end to the other, and multiple property owners are involved. This particular circumstance is a very odd little alley that is an L-shaped curve that then heads east, and then there's a significant drop in the elevation. And only the eastern portion of this alley has ever been used. It's actually currently been used mostly to the apparent eye of somebody going to it. It looks like part of a driveway leading into an apartment complex. The particular circumstance here, when you zoom in on that particular little L shape, to the average person driving past this, it looks like the Mr. Smith's front yard. And really in terms of the circumstances here, I would definitely say this is one where we're cleaning up the paperwork, so to speak, getting this out of public ownership, because it has no value to the public. And if you had ever gone past this circumstance, most people would assume that is just simply part of the front yard. And so I think really because of the unique circumstances here where we have an alley that has not ever been functionally used as part of the other alley, is really because of the way was originally platted. You had two separate subdivisions. So one subdivision created this little lot that jogged around what was supposed to be an alley and did not extend the alley. I think originally, probably 100 plus years ago, the thought was the alley would extend west, but it did not. And so given the fact that this is really not of any particular benefit and perhaps even a detriment to the city to have to maintain and continue to own this part of the property, we think it would be appropriate really for both property owners. I don't see any difference in the portion that's being dedicated to the adjacent property owner, Mr. Smith, or the part that would go to the condo association. We thought that there was definitely grounds for finding that because of the unique circumstances here, that there was definitely merit in reducing the cost of it to both property owners who are requesting the vacation.
Any questions from councilors or discussion? Yes, Councilman Beck, yes.
Thank you, Chair Washington. I appreciate it. When the applicant approached me a few years ago to talk about this particular circumstance, my understanding at that point in time was that the city doesn't necessarily have a mechanism in place in order to deal with physical property that was never actually constructed as it was platted appropriately, i.e., if a property is platted and never actually physically constructed to the to conformance with the plat, there's not really an overriding mechanism a city can employ. Is that a general fair assessment, Ms. Luttrell?
I'm not sure. I haven't seen when this was platted. I think it was a long time ago.
Right.
In present day, when we plat property and plat a road, before we approve that final plat through subdivision agreement, we will require an escrow and a plan to build the road.
And this was obviously prior to that.
And this was way before that.
Yeah.
So this is the mechanism. A vacation is a proper mechanism to eliminate right-of-way that never actually was used as right-of-way.
Sure. Because of the grade separation, however, we also see that the adjoining property owner, or excuse me, the adjacent property owner who at that point in time had not been even reachable to try to figure out how to vacate their portion, the property owner to the east of which we're speaking of, to vacate their portion of the alley. You know, it still remains, my understanding is that it still remains, the cleanup, if you will, remains to be something that is initiated by adjacent property owners and then goes through an approval process, but there's still not any mechanism to, say, address this concern with the property owner to the east as well without their consent and their application for a vacation. Is that correct?
Correct. The way that our vacation ordinance is written, and it's somewhat rooted in state law for reasons that are too complicated to get into here, the way to make public right-of-way available for public sale and public conveyance, the only way to do that is through vacation. And in certain circumstances, the city could vacate, I believe, on its own without the adjacent property owners. There are some reasons we wouldn't want to do that in some cases, but that would still have to go through the Planning Commission, and City Council would have to go through this entire process.
Sure, because I do think we have a cleanup, as was stated by planning staff and city law, of a plat not matching whatsoever really the physical conditions of the property that we're seeing here before us. So, okay, I just wanted to make sure that what Mr. C had explained to me a few years ago still stands today.
Yeah, and really, as I have understood it, if the city wanted to go forward as the applicant, we would have no ability to retain any easements. So for example, in this case, LES does want to have an easement. Sometimes we have a water line, we have a sewer line, and so if we were trying to just dispose of it, it would be very difficult for us to retain the easements. That's partly the reason why we wait for people to come forward with the applications, but often there's a challenge of getting everybody on board to sign an application, particularly if you have a very long alley with 10 different property owners.
Yeah, very good. Thank you. Thank you, Chair Washington.
Yeah, would you mind taking the top photograph off so we could see the, because now I have a question about the alley. So it looks like the alley continues east, and it's just not highlighted. Is that true?
Correct. The next portion is what Councilmember Beckius was talking about. This property owner here was actually also contacted to see if they'd be interested in having that vacated at the same time, because it is also at a different elevation.
Yeah.
The rest of the alley, as it proceeds to the east, it's a little hard to see, but once the grade drops, it's actually mostly paved. And for all the physical appearances, looks just like part of their driveway to go into the apartments.
Yeah.
The apartments being right over here, just off the east of the photograph. The property owner to the east, who's got a long property ownership, just was challenging to reach and declined to participate. So someday we may be back with you to talk about this last little segment that would have the same fact pattern basically as this one, and we would recommend the same thing because the circumstances are very similar.
And so it would again be a split between the property owner on the north side and the property owner, the condo association?
Correct. This property is also bordered by the condo association on the south and a different property owner on the north. So in this case, all we had is the condo association on the south and Mr. William Smith on the north.
Okay.
And if I could just procedure-wise, if you are considering, you won't vote on this till next week, so you have some time to think about it. If you are considering adjusting those, the fee, the purchase price for either or both, on this vacation, there are deeds attached. So I'd suggest contact the city attorney if you intend to do a motion to amend, and that would be the way to adjust those values, and we could prepare that for you in the time between now and next week's vote.
Thank you very much.
I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
Is there a road that goes to the north up from that shaded area? That one photo, you had a car parked kind of crossways.
Basically, this is the paved drive on Mr. Smith's property.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so again, as you're driving.
Can you zoom out a little bit, Steve, just so we can get the full picture?
Yes,
Perfect.
sorry.
That's great.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, so basically, today, as you would just be driving onto his property, you cross the condo association, you'd cross the alley, and then onto his property. And again, that's partly what I think is really quite different about this vacation compared to all the other ones, is the circumstance of how it is really divided what looks like his driveway and property in his yard.
The space that you're trying to vacate is to the left of where that car's parked at?
Yeah, it's this L-shaped property right here. This property right in this area, and I'm sorry I didn't have it highlighted and zoomed up, this is actually owned by a condo association. And what happened was when they platted the cul-de-sac, there was just this leftover fragment of property that was within the plat, and so it was made an outlot. And there's a condo association of the other property owners on this cul-de-sac who own this skinny little piece of property. So this was just the awkwardness of, this was platted in 1909, so you just have different property owners at the time and not a lot of regulations, and people are making the best of the circumstances they can.
Yeah.
So to get into his driveway, he has to cross the condo association's property, correct?
Correct, and then this alley, and then onto his own property.
Then the
And
city
he also
alley.
has a drive on the other side as well.
Doesn't that still present a problem?
Well, that is not something that necessarily the city has any involvement with, and it doesn't appear that it's been a problem with the association, which has this land that they are the caretakers of, allowing him to cross their property to get to his.
But here's an opportunity to fix it.
But yes, with our vacation, there isn't anything we could do. That could be something worked out separately.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? Thank you very much. Mr. Smith, would you like to address council at all? You don't have to, but you're more than welcome.
My name is William Smith. I'm the other. My address is 1630 Dakota Circle, which is the home on the photo. In response to the property owners of the long property where that space has not yet been dealt with the Planning Commission, to my understanding, it is a family from Thailand. They speak very, very little English, and there is a concern about property ownership because the father, in my understanding, has returned to Thailand, and the deed and who owns the property is all up for question. So there's a serious concern with that property, just as a point of clarification. I made a request for the fee given to assessed for the property that I have because added to my property tax this first year as I have just moved here, and the fee that I had to pay to apply for this vacation and the vacation fee equals over 17% of my annual income. And I just said, if the wonderful city council of Lincoln is in favor, I would enjoy that fee being waived. Now, any questions?
Are there any questions? I don't see any.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you very much,
and
Mr.
it's
Smith.
great to be living in Lincoln. Thank you.
We're glad you're here.
Grandchildren are beautiful.
That's the best reason to move. All right. Is there anyone else here in chambers today who'd like to approach council and speak on this issue, either in support or in opposition? All right, Madam Clerk.
That concludes section 6. Section 7 is resolutions. First readings are items 7A through 7I. Ordinances first reading and related resolutions are items 8A. Our pending list date certain is item 9A. Our pending list section 10 are items 10A through 10E.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I would, seeing as we're at the end of our agenda, I would move adjournment.
All right.
Second that.
A second from Carlson. Any discussion? Thank you. Madam Clerk.
Duden,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Beckius,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Washington.
Yes,
Motion carried 7-0.
we are adjourned.